I want to lead that into our college football conversation just a little bit, but I'm curious, as a guy who's watching a lot of college football and watching a lot of NFL, why is it that Lincoln Riley's quarterbacks tend to be the guys that people want to go get with the first pick in the draft?
It's a hell of a recruiting tool, isn't it? To just say, man. Hey, man, come spend 3 years with me and I'll get you drafted number 1 overall. I mean,
and a Heisman. In a Heisman.
And probably a Heisman Trophy. You're right. We can't discount that either. I mean, I think for starters, and I'm curious because the USC offense, and maybe we're just spoiled, but like the USC offense last year was so compared to what we've gotten used to from like when Lincoln was really in his bag at Oklahoma, and even the year before that at USC when Caleb won the Heisman Trophy. But I think my answer to that would just be, I mean, Lincoln has been at the cutting edge of offensive play calling since he took over at Oklahoma. I think the Oklahoma offense is going to give you unique looks, fun looks. They're going to put up a lot of yards. They're going to put up a lot of points. Now, does that translate to the NFL? No, not always anyway. But what it does do is attract the best guys. Guys who are going to say, hey, I want to be in that system that's going to showcase me and make me look as good as possible for anybody watching on the NFL side of things. And so I think it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where, is it the offense? I don't know, but the offense attracts the top caliber guys. I mean, think of the caliber of prospects that have come through this offense. I know, Baker was this great rags to riches story at the beginning of his career. But by the time he was ready to start at Oklahoma, this was a guy who had already won in the Big 12, who already had some degree of success, and you could count on that. And then, oh, by the way, who does Lincoln Riley attract? He gets Kyler, who's the be-all, end-all prospect, the most amazing prospect that I can ever remember. Spencer Rattler was a top-of-the-line guy. You bring in Caleb, so it's funny because I don't think this is an offense that particularly translates one-to-one to the NFL, but it attracts talents that NFL evaluators are going to watch. That's my opinion anyway.
I think it's a good one. I also notice he gives that quarterback every option available. He says, you see it, go make a play, right? I'm going to send you something that I think is going to work, but here's the concept, right? Go make that concept work for you. And he really will ride behind his guy. Go ahead.
No, which to bring it back a topic, I do think that's what's interesting about JJ McCarthy is as much freelancing and as much as Lincoln Riley might put on his quarterback, I wonder if NFL coaches see JJ McCarthy, and to bring it back to your Brock Purdy point, they say, hey, here's a guy who's going to find the read and make the throw, just like Brock Purdy, like find the end breaker, find the guy that the offense has schemed open for you. And if it's not there, you're athletic enough to get the hell out of there, which do I know what's going to happen on Thursday? Absolutely not. But I understand the smoke about Minnesota and JJ McCarthy because Kevin O'Connell, the head coach in Minneapolis, he comes from that tree. He's got some experience with Sean McVay. He's worked with Kyle Shanahan as well. And so I think there are plenty of coaches that say, if I can just find a guy who's going to make the obvious read and has the athleticism to make himself right when it's not there, we can win some football games. So even though JJ didn't have to do it a ton in college, I can see the appeal if you trust your offense that much.
He also gives you leader guy vibes, right? He gives you I'm going to be on the program type vibes, and head coaches love that stuff. But a point that I think is interesting here, you're talking about a guy that's going to make the read that you need to make. Bill Walsh designed the West Coast offense to be quarterback proof, right? He designed it so that Steve Young and Joe Montana didn't have to be Steve Young or Joe Montana. Just run my offense. It's going to work. It turns out both of those guys had some traits that enhance the offense. What I find fascinating about the Lincoln Riley part of that is that's the guy that he studied the most. And to see how his offense has come into fruition, right? This kind of power raid, this pro raid has been interesting for me because it seems to be an antithetical approach to the quarterback is not necessarily the end all be all, but if I can give the quarterback the belief that he can go out there and make it happen within this system and freelance, the imaginary box, if you will, then they tend to go out there and do something. It's interesting to also talk about the guys that didn't work out, like Spencer Rattler, like Chandler Mordecai, who ended up going to SMU and then Wisconsin, had a pretty good career, but did not succeed in being QB1. We'll see what happens with Malachi Nelson, who transferred to Boise State. And it's going to be an interesting test case with Miller Moss, because I thought for sure somebody was going to come in and say, no, I'll take that offense, Lincoln. I'll take that right off your hands. And he apparently has picked Miller Moss. So we get to see if it's the offense and the head coach, or the guy that threw 6 TDs in the Holiday Bowl, which is nothing too shabby, against a Louisville team that could be pretty good. I kind of want to get to Miller Moss by asking this. Didn't know what I had, Miller Moss, till he played, right? Caleb is sitting out. We got the transfer. I had asked the same question that I asked you about Jaden Daniels, about Arch Manning. What if he's not that good? And then on Saturday, sir, I apologize. I was wrong. 19 to 25, 355, and looked so good throwing the ball. Did you know this was already down there, Isidore Newman? Did you know this?
Oh, I mean, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I've known who Arch Manning was for way too long, honestly.
Fair.
Arch Manning did not enjoy an anonymous childhood. So yeah, I mean, I've known he's been on the radar forever. And as an LSU fan, you can count on people named Manning to not really entertain the Tigers. So that's another thing where you're like, oh man, this kid looks really good, and he is not going to go to LSU.
Hold on, I got it. One word. Why?
I mean, the cliche, obvious answer is because his grandpa went to Ole Miss. I mean, come on, we can't be, and his uncle for that matter. I mean, the two.
Y'all want it so bad. Y'all want it so bad.
No, it's interesting. I mean, look, honestly, what's funny, and I'm getting off the rails here a little bit, but for so many years, LSU was a program where quarterback careers went to die. Like, I wouldn't blame a 4 or 5 star quarterback for missing out on for not wanting to go to LSU. Why would you? You want to go somewhere where you're going to hand off 30 times a game and throw for 1,400 yards in a season? Like, that doesn't sound fun to me, but then Joe showed up and everything's a little bit different. We got 2 Heisman Trophy winners. We got a number 1 prospect in next year's class. So maybe the tide's changing a little bit, but I don't trust Arch Manning if he didn't trust our track record back when he was a recruit. But having said that, RJ, I'm curious, and I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm really not. But you brought up the Holiday Bowl. And now you're bringing up the spring game. Which of those do you trust less? Because like the greatest mirages in college football, in my opinion, are the guy that balled in the bowl game and the guy that balled in the spring game. That's not to say nobody that does that ever goes on to true success. But if I had a nickel for every time I got excited about a guy who balled out in a bowl game or a spring game, I'd have a lot of money lying around. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, hey, look, the Nuss Bus balled out. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great example. Okay. Garrett Nussmeier balled out in our bowl game, and do I think it means anything for the coming season? Absolutely not.
No, I'm all in on the Nuss Bus. Like I love me some Nussmeier. That dude. He is y'all. Like I look at him and he saw what Joe did. And he said, "No, I can do that. I'll do that. That's gonna be fun." Miles Brennan didn't quite get it. Garrett gets it. He understands.
Look, he's got the swag and the confidence. He's got all that stuff. But I got to see you do it in a real game, especially at the state of the sport right now with what we're trotting out there in the non-CFP bowl games. Come on, I'm not booking tickets to the SEC championship based on what I saw in a Cheez-It Bowl. No, thank you.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't with that defense either, but the point is taken, right? I understand what it's like to have a crappy defense and expect the offense to have to carry you. Like I get it.
That you do as an Oklahoma fan. That
is the reason we didn't care about USC's offense last year, because the defense is still a Lincoln Riley defense. But that's that. The reason I trust the spring game with Arch, or have some trust in Miller Moss and Lincoln Riley, quite frankly, is I trust my eyes. I've been watching a lot of quarterback play. I mean, I'm eating it for breakfast. And the way that dude moved and the way he snapped his head around to go through his progressions and then unleash this really beautiful bomb downfield over and over again. So much so that, I mean, I was paying attention to this. I think Quinn Ewers might have had a reaction to this, taking down some Texas stuff on his IG, even though we got Sark going, I know what I got in Quinn. I wanted to see what I have in Arch. What he's got in Arch is a dude. Like, I loved watching him move around back there. I really did. I thought he had control. I thought that, okay, this is the number one prospect in the 2023 class as opposed to another dude last name Manning. But to the point about LSU, he grew up a Texas fan. I'm still trying to get to that part, right? Like, Ole Miss, maybe. I get it. Tennessee, I get. You see Colt McCoy beat Bama and you decide you want to go to Texas and you live in New Orleans and your last name is Manning and LSU was around the way. I don't expect you to have an answer for that. I just need to lay out those facts and understand that, yeah, Arch Manning is probably going to terrorize both of us as I am a new member of the SEC and not that enthusiastic about it. Are you at all interested in what that dude's going to do, say, when Quinn Ewers gets hurt? Because college football fan, Quinn Ewers gets hurt. That's going to happen. He gets hurt.
My thing, and again, I'm still trying to navigate the current landscape of college football, and maybe I shouldn't bother because it's about to change again with the format getting bigger.
Right.
But like we spend so much time worrying about the future, and it never really pans out the way that we think it's going to. Like, who's the kid? And I apologize for not knowing this off the top of my head. Who's the kid that stepped in and balled for Texas in the bowl game a few years ago?
Murphy.
Well, okay, Malik Murphy, but no, I believe it was Casey Thompson, right?
You're talking about a couple years ago.
Yeah, several years ago.
Yes. Casey Thompson stepped in.
Son of the OU player.
Right.
Steps in, and like it's the same conversation where it's like, oh my God, did you see what this kid did in the bowl game? And come to find out, it doesn't always translate that way. I mean, we're talking about USC. I know this was pre-Lincoln Riley, but I was joking about this with somebody the other day where you go through the list of like USC guys who were going to be the next great thing at USC, like from Keaton Slovis to, I mean, Jackson Dart used to be a USC quarterback. And I promise I don't say any of that to hate, but my point is we're all projecting like 2 years ahead of time. And in the meantime, especially with the transfer portal being what it is, most of this stuff's not going to come to fruition. It's just not. And now in the case of Arch Manning, I'm interested to see what happens here. Because, yeah, unfortunately for Texas, that is just such a big name that you can't ignore it, where a lot of times the backup is like, whatever, like may the best man win and we'll probably have a guy transfer out. And that's just the nature of these things. But when it's somebody named Manning, it takes on a different level of notoriety. I mean, we are talking about the backup quarterback's performance in the spring game right now because his name is Arch Manning. Having said all of that, go ahead. I don't have a great answer to it. I really don't.
I see where you're coming from in as far as trying to predict what's going to happen or even get excited for what might happen and what's probably not going to occur. However, you know that the only thing that we like better than the starting quarterback is the 5-star behind him. Mm-hmm. We always think that is the guy. And Trevor Lawrence really broke this. Like I don't think we would ever be able to come back from this because before Trevor Lawrence led Clemson to a national championship, who ain't nobody, people had to find out that Clemson was in fact in Clemson, South Carolina before Trevor Lawrence, right? We didn't have to deal with this. It was Jamel Holloway, 1985, Oklahoma, wishbone. Look it up. All I'm saying is now we expect these guys to play right away, and they expect to play right away. I don't think Arch does. I think that dude's just moving different. I think he's stuck in the 1990s because he wants to be. I think his family wants him to be. I think he's going to be at Texas until such a time as it becomes untenable for him to be there. But I do tend to get excited about these things because I'm going to play it as it lies, right? If it moves, it moves. If it shifts, it shifts. I'm okay, right? 12 teams this year. Maybe in a couple of years, we'll get to 14. We'll see what that means for the bowl schedule. We'll see what that means for name, image, and likeness. We'll see what that means for Austin versus the NCAA. A lot of changes coming our way. I'm not not over enthusiastic about it, but I will accept it when it happens. However, we're coming into this space where we're talking about guys haven't played for 5-6 years being first round quarterbacks. We're coming into the space where guys are getting to be 22, 23, 24, even 25 years old, winning national championships, expect to play in the NFL. I think that's going to trickle down, right? So if we see player movement the way we see player movement, and we know the guys are going to chase bags, I'm curious, does that benefit a place like LSU or Texas, who I think of as blue bloods? Other people have their opinions about that. Or over there in Boulder, Colorado, where there seems to be quite the comings and goings, and we care about the comings and goings. Do you think that we're going to see a space where we see one of these Central Floridas or SMU in the 1980s, a smaller school that really just wants to be good in a hurry, go get guys like an Arch Manning, go get guys that otherwise would be playing at Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama?
I mean, the answer is yes, obviously. Like in this day and age, it's easier than it ever has been for the NFL to find you. Like they will find you and they will scout you and you will get drafted no matter what. So the answer is yes, in the sense that, yeah, like if you can't crack the two deep at Texas or OU or LSU or Bama, yeah, like I really, and it's not just because Nick Saban retired, but I think we're getting to the end of the age where the fourth guy on the depth chart was a 5-star. You know, I just don't think anybody's going to be willing to wait that long. But I do still think there's levels to this. And with all due respect to what's going on, you know, Dion and what's going on at Colorado, with all due respect to all of those programs, I don't think somebody like Arch Manning is going anywhere that doesn't have a proven track record of getting me to the top of the draft. You know, like if I have that kind of pedigree, if I think that highly of myself as a quarterback, I'm going to be in a program that is producing high level NFL players, preferably producing high level NFL quarterbacks, which it's an impressive coup for me that Texas got Arch, because they haven't really had that in recent history. And I think it's a testament to Sark that he was able to pull that off without the track record. But yeah, I think if Arch Manning's future doesn't lie at Texas, and I'm with you, I think it does. I think if Arch and his family had any doubt about what was going on there, he'd be gone already.
If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.